October 12, 2023. Southern Donetsk Oblast, a tree line east of Novomikhailivka. Frost breath hangs in the low light, the clay road biting boot soles, and the gun pit smells of old oil and churned earth. Senior Lieutenant Oleg Sokolov runs his palm along the flaked paint of a D-2152mm howitzer, like a groom steadying a skittish horse. The battery 3 guns, 6 men each, waits for the forward observer's mark. You hear the wind drag over open fields and the dry rattle of withered sunflowers in the black soil. Somewhere beyond the hedgerow, a single raven clicks. Target Red 2, coordinates confirmed, crackles the radio. Fire for effect. They've been promised salvation, millions of shells from the east, stamped with Korean characters, and the faint ghosts of the Kim dynasty's slogans. The crates came by rail, ash grey, smelling of mildew and ocean salt. Invincible, a colonel had said on the siding at Ilovaisk, tapping a crate with his baton. Comrades, we will darken the sky. Sokolov gestures. Loader Private Kravchenko cracks open a wooden box, pries free straw, and lifts the 152mm HE round. It's slick with preservative, the driving band oxidized into a green bruise. He feels the weight sag his forearms. The fuse cap is tight, too tight, like it's fused to the metal by years of damp. It's fine, the gun captain mutters. Get it in. The round kisses the breech with a hollow clunk. The ramming staff thumps twice. Breech block rolls up and locks. You can hear the battery commander counting softly under his breath, as if he's willing the distance shorter. 1.6, 1.6, charge 4, comes the order. Kravchenko slots the powder bags. Oleg steps back, checks the elevation bubble, corrects a hair. The field stinks now of solvent and cold sweat. You feel your fingers numb inside your gloves, and you focus on the lanyard as if it's the only clean line in the world. On my mark, the captain says. Mark. Oleg pulls. The gun coughs, not the hard breaking thunder they know, but a wet, strangled bark. The tube blooms white with powder flash, then a second flash detonates inside the chamber. It's a bright punch, too bright, too close. The world snaps, metal screams, the breech slams. A fissure zips down the barrel like lightning trapped in steel. Kravchenko's cap lifts off his head and disappears. The recoil sled convulses. A shower of brass shards peppers the dug wall. Someone is yelling, someone is not. The smoke tastes wrong, sweet, chemical, stale like rotten cardboard. The gun captain's sleeve is on fire. Oleg tackles him into the mud, smothering flames with his chest, hearing his own heartbeat pound like a mallet. Misfire. A voice on the net asks tin flat, not understanding. Catastrophic, Oleg growls, coughing black. Gun 1 down, casualty. His throat strips on the word. Gun 2 fires. Its report is normal, disciplined. Gun 3 fires, and the shell departs, then whistles back in a drunken arc 200 meters short, tearing open a cow pond and flinging silver water in a sunlit fan. The forward observer swears. Rounds landing wild. Adjust, negative, hold fire. The North Korean crates sit stacked like altar steps at the lip of the pit. Oleg stares at the stencils. 122 to 152, lot NK82, storage code 41. Decades. He remembers the old warrant back at the depot, tapping a corroded fuse with a knuckle. Storage kills ammunition, the man said. One day the powder turns from propellant into lyre. Kravchenko's hands shake as he unscrews a fuse from another round. Threads seize, then give with a brittle squeal. Inside the fuse, the desiccant is tar black. The primer smells like old matches left in rain. The battery commander squats, eyes narrow. We're rationing. 2 shells per gun, then stop. Keep the rest for emergencies. But the plan just lit its own sleeve. They shift to the second gun, a 65 msta-b, newer by a decade but the same hungry throat. Sergeant Petrov eases around in, checks the driving band, wipes grit with his sleeve. If it's going to go, it'll go on the pull, he says without humor. Head down. You watch the men tighten their world to simple motions. Load, lock, call, pull. The second shot is good. Far off, a battery of Ukrainian Caesars answers with a tight, high whip, and a shell walks into the Russian rear like a surgeon's finger. Mud and ice chips patter on the helmets. Counter battery, someone shouts. Gun 3's lanyard jerks. The primer pops, but the powder bags refuse, just a dull thud and a sickly hiss. Hang fire, Petrov barks. Everyone freezes. They count to 30, eyes on the motionless tube like it's a venomous snake. Oleg can hear Kravchenko whispering a prayer, the one his grandmother taught him that tastes like church wax. On 30, Petrov steps in, jaw set, and carefully opens the breech. A tongue of smoke spills out, slow and syrup thick. The round sits there, obstinate. They wrestle it back into the open, set it on a sandbag dais as if it might explode out of spite. The fuse is pitted. The stamping shows a date older than most of the crew. "We're artillerymen," Petrov says softly, almost to himself, "and we're shooting museum exhibits." In the next field, a Russian BM-21 grad truck coughs into life and chugs away, reluctant, like an old man rising from a sofa. The sky has cleared to a pale, surgical blue. The radio cracks again, this time with an edge like a rasp. Higher says conserve. Rounds per tube cut to 1 per hour. Confirm. Sokolov confirms, eyes on the dead D-20, its barrel split near the muzzle like a peeled fruit. The Raven returns, perches on the lip of a crate, and regards the men with the flat, black wisdom of scavengers. Somewhere beyond the tree line, another distant gun fails with a hollow bang and an abrupt silence that everyone can feel in their teeth. Oleg lifts his thermos, finds the tea inside gone metallic from the smoke. He drinks anyway. You can taste the iron. October 3rd, 2023. Tikhoretsk Rail Yard, Krasnodar Krai. Floodlights glare off rain-slick tracks, turning every puddle into a hard white coin. Captain Yuri Malenkov, of the 495th Logistics Brigade, walks the line of flat cars with a clipboard he doesn't trust and a Geiger wand he doesn't need. The cars carry mountains of crates, ash-grey, salt-streaked, bound with wire and stamped with Hangul and blocky lock codes, NK78, NK82, NK90. A North Korean liaison in a threadbare greatcoat smokes with ceremony, cupping the ember from the wind like it's a relic. Behind him, a political officer rehearses victory language, solidarity, comradeship, invincible. Malenkov taps a crate. It thunks with the hollow sound of wet wood. The stencils bleed at the edges, paint dragged over damp. He pries one open with a crowbar, and the smell bursts up: mildew, sea salt, a sour note of old rubber. Inside, straw crumbles into his gloves. 152mm HE, driving bands bruised dark, fuses capped with oxidized tin hats. He writes, "Visual corrosion, desiccant degraded, retest required." Then he crosses it out. The political officer watches. The liaison says a practiced line in Russian, kept in pristine conditions, inspected by general staff. He smiles a smile that has no weather in it, and points to a small red stamp of a star. Invincible type. "Uh-huh," Malenkov answers, lowering the lid. The Geiger wand clicks once at nothing, as if to remind them both of theatre. Forklifts whine. Soldiers in rain capes chain the crates into trucks. A colonel signs the manifest with a flourish and gives a speech to the camera. "Millions of rounds our answer to NATO artillery." The lens drinks the lie without blinking. Off camera, a warrant officer murmurs, "Check the propellant lots, Captain. If the powder caked, you'll hear it scratch like sugar." Malenkov nods, makes a note he knows will disappear in the next edit. He rides with the convoy east. The road unspools under tires, wet and endless. They pass through towns that pretend not to see them, and forests that watch with old eyes. He thinks about the depot reports from summer misfires rising, breech burns, premature detonations. He thinks about the memo he wrote with the word "unsafe" in capital letters. He remembers the reply, "Patriotic pessimism will be noted." November 1st, 2023. A forward ammunition park near Volnovakha. The trucks back in and exhale stacks of North Korean crates into muddy geometry. Gun crews arrive like pilgrims, faces pinched by fatigue and the thin, bitter cold. Senior Lieutenant Oleg Sokolov's battery signs for their allotment. Malenkov watches them heft the first box, 2 men per handle, boots skidding in black mud, and he hears the quiet between their words. He wants to tell them to strip the fuses, to weigh the powder charges, to reject any bag that smells like vinegar or almonds. Instead he says, "Log your misfires on Form 13B, we need the serial lots." Form 13B won't save our barrels, Sergeant Petrov mutters, but he pockets the paper anyway. A demonstration follows. The political officer insists. A pristine msta-b is rolled under a canopy of camouflage netting. Cameras again. A sanitized crate, pre-selected, opens like a prop. He can tell by the clean straw, the dry snap of twine, the date stamp that actually matches the manifest. The round glides into the breech. The lanyard snaps. The gun speaks beautifully. Applause. Slogans. Invincible. Someone chants for the recording, and the word bumps like a cartwheel over stones. December 9th, 2023. Southern Donetsk. Dusk like a bruise. The ledger on Malenkov's lap is swelling with damp and bad numbers. Hang fire, early detonation, short round, tube split. He runs a finger down a page till it lands on NK82, storage code 41 again and again and again. 38% failure across 4 regiments. He thinks about propellant grains turning to dust, stabilizers long evaporated, fuses grown crystalline and mean. He can hear the shell inside the barrel, in his imagination, waking wrong. A call from the front slices through static. Sokolov's voice, hoarse. Captain, we've got another premature in the chamber. 1 Kia, 2 wounded. Same lot, same smell. In the background, men cough, a radio hisses, and a raven laughs at nothing. Malenkov closes his eyes. Cease using NK8241. Segregate and mark. Use domestic stocks for immediate fires. Domestic stocks are down to bones and promises. Petrov cuts in, borrowing the handset. Hire says fire plan needs 20 rounds per tube by dawn. With what? New order from Army Group, Malenkov replies, reading the line as if it might change in the saying. Ration to 1 round per hour per tube until further notice. Conserve barrels, conserve men. Silence. Then a dry chuckle that isn't humor. Conserve victory while you're at it, Petrov says, and hands the radio back to the wind. Night tightens. The Ukrainians range in with French and American guns, their cadence flat, professional, merciless. Russian counter-battery tries to answer with museum pieces loaded with seawater and slogans. In a tree line, Sokolov pours tea that tastes like metal and watches frost rim the split mouth of his dead D-20. He logs another failure. He draws a small raven in the margin without thinking. Back at the park, Malenkov walks the stacks with a flashlight and a rag. He opens random crates, rubs powder grains between thumb and forefinger, listens for the sugar scratch. He smells the air for rot. On his clipboard he writes a sentence no camera will ever film. Reliance on isolated stockpiles is eating our guns alive. He signs it. He files it. He knows it will be buried under speeches about invincibility. At first light, a train horn wails somewhere west, long and lonely. More crates are coming. Type continue to generate the next section. December 10th, 2023. Eastern edge of Novomikhailivka, dawn like paper ash. Frost-rimed grass snaps under boots as Senior Lieutenant Oleg Sokolov's reduced battery drags tarps off the msta-b. The dead D-20 sits behind them like a monument, barrel split and silvered by cold. Breath ghosts, diesel coughs, and every motion is quiet with the knowledge that one wrong round can turn steel into shrapnel and men into names. 2 tubes today, Sergeant Petrov says, gloved thumb on a dog-eared lot list. Domestic first. If we must, NK90 only. No NK8241. If anyone smells almonds or vinegar, drop it and step away. Loda Kravchenko nods, eyes raw, knuckles split. He opens a domestic crate waxed paper, clean cordite scent. The round slides in, the breech locks with a satisfying honest clack. Lanyard. Pull. The shot is good flat crack, recoil true. The shell's distant punch like a door slammed by a giant. You feel the men exhale together, a shared lung. Record, Oleg says. He writes, Dom 23, OK. Then he points at the ration clock, a wristwatch wired to a stake, 48 minutes until the next permitted round. Across the field, a Ukrainian Excalibur finds a Russian ammo truck too slow to dig in. The explosion lifts a column of black smoke that folds over on itself, a flower closing. The sound arrives late, a heavy hand. Petrov squints into the cold shine. They have time and eyes, we have crates that lie. The ration clock crawls. The radio chews static, spits orders and cautions. Higher repeats the mantra, 1 round per hour per tube, conserve. Oleg listens to the space between shots, the enemy's cadence, the map you make with your ears. Frost melts into mud, then freezes again as wind swings north. When the watch finally ticks, Kravchenko eyes the NK-90. He works the lid with careful disrespect, as if offending the crate might keep it honest. Straw breaks like old bone. The round's driving band is a dull copper scab. The fuse cap has pitted freckles. Fuse off, Petrov orders. Check the internals. Kravchenko unscrews. Threads squeal. The desiccant is grey, not black. He blows gently. Dust swirls like moths. He sniffs no almonds, no vinegar, just the tired smell of metal. He weighs the powder bag in his hands. Grains feel intact, he says, voice small in the winter air. Load, Oleg says, and you can feel the whole gun line lean away a fraction, a ritual taught by pain. The round seats, breech shuts, elevation nudged, traverse kissed, lanyard tight. On, Petrov says. Mark. The primer pops, a clean ignition. The tube barks the way God intended. The round goes, and for a heartbeat, everyone is 5 kilos lighter. It will lull you, Petrov mutters, almost tenderly. Then, it will bite. By noon, they have put 3 honest shells into a tree line that answers with clipped western accents of steel. The 4th attempt with NK stock hangs fire again. Primer cough, powder sulks. Hang, Petrov starts, but the breech belches a yellow tongue, and a dry crack runs down the tube's paint like a vein. Everyone freezes into statues, 30-second stretch. Kravchenko's lips move in the wax-taste prayer. On 30, Petrov moves like a man diffusing his own heart. Breech lever, exhale. The breath the gun holds releases in a dirty sigh. The round comes out slick with sweat that isn't there. They set it on a sandbag island and chalk it BAD in block letters. By afternoon, the ration order has turned the battlefield strange. Where there should be rolling thunder, there are single beats, metronomic, lonely. Malenkov's voice comes thin from the handset, wind-hollowed. Directive from Army Group confirmed. Prioritize verified domestic lots for counter-battery only. NK-82 quarantined. NK-90 use at commander's discretion with enhanced safety. Enhanced safety, Petrov repeats, tasting the words. We'll wear luck like armor. A drone buzzes somewhere high, the sound like a wasp trapped in glass. Oleg scans the white sky until his eyes water. He remembers the colonel at Ilovaisk promising to darken the heavens. Instead, the sky is empty, hard, and honest. Twilight creeps. The raven returns, hopping from crate to crate, beak ticking at stencils as if reading them out loud. Oleg fishes in his pocket and finds a candy wrapped in paper gone soft. He tosses it. The bird hops sideways, suspicious, then pecks. Good judge of character, Petrov says. As light dies, a final order, cease fire, conserve for dawn, Ukrainian counter-battery active. The men coil the lanyard like a sleeping snake and drape a tarp over the msta-b's shoulders. The dead D-20 glints dull, a split smile in the dark. Oleg writes the day into the ledger. He pauses, pen above paper, and adds 3 words he has never written before. Guns fear ammunition. In the cold quiet, you can hear the barrels cooling, ticking like stoves in an empty house. December 11th, 2023. A hedgerow south of Novomikhailivka, dawn bruised violet. The world crackles with hoarfrost and radio static. Senior Lieutenant Oleg Sokolov wakes to the sound of barrels pinging as they shed the night's cold, each tick a coin dropped on a metal plate. The raven is already there, a black note in the pale staff of branches. Schedule, Sergeant Petrov says, breath fogging. 0631 domestic, 0730 observe, 8 hold, keep NK boxed unless counter-battery lights us. They work without speech, each gesture a practiced prayer. Kravchenko checks fuses with a jeweler's meanness, tapping threads, sniffing for betrayal. Oleg runs a gloved finger down the rifling at the muzzle as if he could soothe steel. The first domestic round is a clean story. Breech locks, primer bites, recoil shoulders the carriage and returns obediently. The shell's distant impact thumps like a fist into wet bread. Splash, the forward observer confirms, calm as a metronome. For a breath, the day looks workable. Then the sky flexes. A Ukrainian battery lays down a short, precise ladder 3, 4, 5 walking west to east, testing for the reply. Oleg holds his crew with a raised palm. Wait, he whispers to the blood in the air. At 7:30, a single gun to the north answers too boldly. Counter battery finds it in 2 shots. The sound is a door slammed twice on bone. Petrov's jaw tightens. They're counting our heartbeats. At 8, the ration clock becomes a tyrant. Men watch the seconds the way sailors watch a reef. NK90. Kravchenko asks the question a thin wire. Confirm weight. Check bag integrity, Oleg says. If anything lies, it doesn't fly. They crack a crate. Straw exhales its old ship breath. The powder bag rustles like dry leaves. The grains run smooth over Kravchenko's palm, no sugar scratch. He inhales cautiously, no almonds, no vinegar, just tired chemistry. He nods. Load. Petrov's voice is low even. The round seats, breech seals. The lanyard takes all the fear men refuse to hold. On, Oleg says. Mark. The ignition is clean. The tube barks pure. Relief comes like warmth through damp socks. Record NK90B. Okay, Oleg says, writing with a stiff hand. He glances up as the Raven hops closer, beak tapping the chalked BAD round sitting on its sandbag island like a king exiled from his throne. By midday, the rationed battlefield sounds wrong. The thunder that should roll is a dotted line, each dot a life risked. A drone hums high and mean. Petrov stalks the tree line, listening with his shoulders. They'll bait us, he says. Wait for our single reply, then swat. The bait comes at 1300, a quick 3-round salvo splashing behind their second gun. The radio hisses. Counter battery authority granted, 2 rounds. Malenkov's voice, distant, adds, domestic preferred. If NK, enhanced safety. Domestic is down to 1. Oleg weighs the math in his mouth. 1 domestic, 1 NK90B. Fire staggered, 30 seconds apart. If the first draws, the second stays cold. Domestic goes first, clean, honest. 30 seconds stretch thin. Sky holds its breath, no reply. Send the second, Oleg orders. The NK90B leaves the tube with a textbook crack. Far off, the impact blooms a brown flower in a copse where the drone had lingered. The observer smiles in his voice. On target. For a moment the world unclenches. Then a report from the flank. Gun 4. Catastrophic. Premature. 2 down. The sentence falls like frozen fruit. Petrov closes his eyes, opens them again as if he can change the nouns. Lot? Oleg asks. NK8241. The voice answers, jagged. We thought maybe static eats the rest. The Raven lifts. Wheels once, resettles. Kravchenko's hands are steady only by force. He reaches for chalk and circles the lot number on their list until the paper pills. New directive. Malenkov comes over the net, tired down to bone. NK8241 to be destroyed in place. Do not transport. Do not attempt refuse. Mark and blast with controlled charges when safe. Copy, Oleg says. He looks at the islanded BAD round, its fuse grinning with pitted teeth. Controlled charges, Petrov repeats, eyeing the tree line where enemy eyes feel like coins pressed into skin. In this carnival, dusk bleeds early. They wire the BAD round by the book sandbag berm, firing wire run long, men pressed into the earth like prayers. On Oleg's mark, Kravchenko touches contacts. The charge coughs, flips the traitor onto its side, and the NK shell does not detonate. It just lies there, a promise that forgot how to keep itself. Again, Oleg says, second charge. This time the shell rips itself into jagged grammar, shrapnel thudding into frozen soil. The blast tastes alkaline and old. The Raven flaps off, scolding. Night. Frost grows like fur on canvas and steel. Men chew cold bread and colder thoughts. Oleg writes the day in the ledger and underlines the line that matters. Rationing saved lives today. Petrov adds beside it, in cramped letters, so did fear. In the dark, the barrels tick cool, counting down to a dawn that will ask for more careful thunder. December 12th, 2023. Forward ammo point. A ruined tractor shed roofed with torn tarps and winter breath. Captain Yuri Malenkov crouches at a crude bench, 2 pallets on fuel drums turning fuses under a guttering headlamp. The light paints brass in sickly gold. Each fuse he opens is a biography of neglect, crystals like hoarfrost on detonators, wax turned to grit, threads that moan when they move. Lot NK90B, sample 12. He says to the corporal scribing in a damp ledger. Desiccant grey, grains free-flowing, stabilizer odor faint, condition, marginal but serviceable. He sets it aside, palms black with preservative that smells like old fish and regret. Outside, the ration clock rules the guns. A clean domestic shot thumps distant. Then nothing. Then a single NK bark. The silence between is a field you can walk across and count your steps. A truck groans up to the shed, tires chewing rime. Senior Lieutenant Oleg Sokolov climbs down, face wintry with smoke and little sleep. Sergeant Petrov follows, lugging a crate by one handle, as if unwilling to give the wood the dignity of 2 men. We're quarantining NK8241, Oleg says without greeting. Need your stamp to blow the rest. You'll have it, Malenkov says, easing the crate onto the bench. He pries the lid, and the smell comes out wet and old, like a cellar with a dead light bulb. He doesn't flinch anymore. Inside, straw clings to steel, as if trying to keep the round from what comes next. The fuse cap is freckled. The driving band's patina is a sick green bruise. Petrov watches the work with a boxer's stillness. Guns fear ammunition, he says, not as a joke now, but as a catechism. The corporal's pencil hesitates, then writes it in the margin like a superstition. They move to triage. Malenkov teaches with economy. Weigh powder bags in the palm, listen for the sugar scratch of clumped grains, sniff for almonds and vinegar, roll threads over a thumbnail to feel for crystalline spite. Kravchenko learns fast because his life insists on it. He rejects 3 of 9 NK90B by feel alone. Your hands are better than half our meters, Malenkov says, which is half praise and half indictment of the meters. A distant drone whines, thin as a mosquito. The men freeze without asking. The whine fades. Work resumes. We're going to blow 2 pallets of NK8241 at dusk, Oleg says. We'll rig like a mine clearance. Sandbag crown, donor charges, long line. If it cooks off, we want the sky to have most of it. Copy, Malenkov nods, signing forms that no camera wants. He adds a line to his private report with a stub of pencil. Failure rate for NK82 lots 30–40% across sectors. Premature detonation, hang fires, gross dispersion. Operational consequence, rationed fire, reduced counter-battery ability, increased barrel attrition, crew casualties from ammunition origin events. Strategic note, Cold War stockpiles from isolated suppliers are a brittle crutch. They snap first under weight. The sun never properly rises, just smears grey thicker. Dusk, early, and absolute. The demolition pit is a scraped scar in frozen dirt, a ring of sandbags like teeth. 2 pallets of NK8241 sit in the middle, hunched. Petrov lays donor charges like a tailor pinning a suit that will be burned. Kravchenko pays out wire with slow hands. Back to cover, Oleg says. Men fold into trenches, into folds of earth, into themselves. The wind nosedives and brings the smell of snow. Fire in the hole 3, Petrov calls, voice steady in a way that makes other men steady. 2, 1. The pit lifts in a hard white punch. The sound arrives late, a slab of pressure that presses your ribs like an interrogation. Shrapnel thuds the berm. A fuse cap lands 20 meters away with a small, embarrassed plink. The Raven rises in a lazy spiral and settles again on the post-blast edge, black on black. Again, Oleg says, because fragments of crates still stick up like bones. The second shot finishes the lie. After, the air tastes alkaline and honest. Night clamps down. In the shed, they inventory survivors by lantern, domestic small, NK90B reduced, NK8241 gone to smoke and lessons. Malenkov signs the destruction certificate and folds it into his coat like contraband truth. On the radio, Army Group pushes a new phrase, operational pause in fires. Men translate it silently into what it is, we are running out. Across the line, Ukrainian guns keep their cadence, not loud, just inevitable. Precision, has its own music. Oleg returns to the gun line with 2 approved NK90B and 4 domestics, cradling them like borrowed time. He tucks the ledger under the tarp, the page still damp where he underlined the day's doctrine: rationing saved lives, fear did too. And below it, in Malenkov's neat print, a harder sentence: reliance is fragility. You feel the cold settle into the steel and stay there patient as winter. December 13th, 2023. Treeline east of Novomikhailivka, pre-dawn blue like bruised glass. Frost limbs the split smile of the dead D-20, the msta-b breathes thin vapor from its muzzle. Senior Lieutenant Oleg Sokolov's men move with monkish quiet, gloves on brass, eyes on threads, breath measured as if oxygen is rationed too. Sequence, Sergeant Petrov says. 06 domestic, 07 observe. NK90B only by feel and smell. Loader Kravchenko sets a domestic round, palms the powder bag, listens for the truth of grains. Breech closes, primer bites, recoil runs true. Far off, a brown flower opens where the FO had marked a hedge. The raven hops closer, head cocked as if conducting. The ration clock crawls. At 07, the sky answers 3 precise reports, a French accent to the steel. Counter-battery authority grants 1 reply per tube. Domestic first, Oleg says. The shot is clean, the sky watches unmoved. At 08, the choice arrives in a crate, NK90B, lot ink blurred, straw damp as an old towel. Kravchenko unscrews the fuse, hears threads complain like old men, sniffs no almonds, no vinegar. He weighs the bag, rolls grains between thumb and forefinger, no sugar scratch, he nods. Load, Petrov says, and everyone leans away by habit, making room for fate. The ignition is crisp. The tube barks right. A distant punch in a copse where a drone had lingered. On, the FO says, the approval, small and human in the net's cold. Then the flank calls, voice broken by wind. Gun 6 premature in tube, static chews the rest. The silence that follows is thick and salted. Petrov looks down at his boots like they might tell him something better. Oleg writes the lot number anyway, a name for a wound. By midday, operational pause becomes an ache you can hear. The battlefield speaks in isolated syllables. Where thunder should roll, it stutters. Where fire plans should braid, they fray. Malenkov comes up the line with a map stiff from cold and bureaucratic fingerprints. Army group confirms. NK82 destroyed in place theatre-wide. NK90B used at commander discretion with enhanced safety. Domestic reserved for counter-battery and priority targets. Priority targets are all of them, Petrov says, not challenging, just tired enough to tell the truth. They move through the day like swimmers counting strokes. Each round is a decision. Each decision costs. A drone hums high, a metronome for caution. The raven pecks at a fuse cap until it spins free and rolls into the mud like a coin that buys nothing. Dusk sneaks in early, dragging snow smell. The ledger under the tarp has grown a spine, lots, failures, rations, the grammar of scarcity. Oleg adds a line no officer taught him to write. We shoot for effect, but first for survival. Night. The barrels tick as they cool. Somewhere, Ukrainian guns lay a short, tidy sentence across a road junction. No drama, just competence. December 14th, 2023. A pale sun like a bald bulb. The msta-b takes its single domestic at dawn, a clean word in a broken conversation. The second hour, an NK90B balks primer cough, powder sulk. Hang fire, Petrov says, and 30 seconds become 30 years. On 30, he opens the breech with a gambler's hands. Smoke slips out sly. The round comes back sweating. It sits on its sandbag island, chalked BAD, the way a lesson sits in a man, until it changes his walk. Malenkov's voice over the net is tired and exact. Aggregated failure rates confirmed. 30 to 40% on NK lots by regiment. Prematures, hang fires, wide dispersion. Rationing to continue. Barrel inspections doubled. Report any scent anomalies, almonds, vinegar, solvent gone sweet. Oleg listens. He looks at his men, Kravchenko with desiccant dust in his eyebrows, Petrov counting in his head, the raven hopping crate to crate like a parishioner. He looks at the sky, honest and empty. He writes the last entry of the day, pen-biting damp paper. The shells promised to darken the sky. Instead, they dimmed our guns. He caps the pen. He zips the ledger in plastic and tucks it under canvas. The wind combs the frost backward. Somewhere in the dark, a train horn carries long, lonely, inevitable. Type continue to generate the next section.